Hello, I'm Pastor Joe, and welcome to Impacts, where I try to help nurture your faith in, your commitment to, and your relationship with Jesus Christ. You know, it seems that fighting and disagreeing is everywhere, that all areas of life, in all of our different relationships, we often encounter disagreements, fighting, and arguing. It's really nothing new, but it's something we need to be aware of, and we need to be careful about it because it can create a lot of damage. And that's what I want us to talk about today. So come on, let's get started. You know, I believe one of the more depressing things that we do sometimes is to watch the news at night. Because it seems that it is filled with story after story after story of people fighting and disagreeing. We fight over politics, politicians, who's right, who's wrong. Democrats and Republicans are arguing with each other, both pointing the finger at who's to blame or who has the best answer. We have seen way too many stories of someone being beaten up or even killed because they're wearing the wrong sports jersey. People argue over how best to parent kids or how best to raise kids. I've seen families ripped apart with that. I've seen churches who are consumed with arguing over what's the best style of worship, over how are we supposed to dress for worship, what's the best version of the Bible, or what have you. There's countless ways that in all areas of life we fight. You know, I read an article years ago, and I've shared this many times, so you've probably heard me say it, but one of the things the article said is that the number one reason people stop going to church is because of the way people within the church treat one another. Think about that for a little bit. That's not even taking into account why people don't come to church, but it's saying when we look at the church, when we look at church members within a particular congregation, a group of people that are supposed to live differently than the world around them, they look just like the world. And that causes people to step away because what we say we believe, the values we say we hold, they're just not seeing. And it really doesn't even matter what the argument is about. But fighting, particularly within the church, but in all areas of life, has the risk of tearing us apart, creating dissension, and just leaving brokenness and pain in its wake. But you know, this isn't anything new. If we turn to the book of Galatians, we can read Paul's words in chapter 5, starting at verse 15. If, however, you bite and devour one another, take care that you are not consumed by one another. And say what Paul is really saying is, look, you are going to fight. You're going to disagree, but be careful that you don't allow those disagreements to rip you apart, to tear you apart, because it's a reality of life. He's reminding us that we live by a different standard, where we look at one another and treat one another as brothers and sisters in Christ, not only when we agree, but maybe particularly when we don't. So look, here's my challenge to you. I want you to look around in your life in all areas, and where do you disagree with people? It may be people that you are in church with. Where do y'all disagree, and how are you disagreeing? It's okay in life to have differing opinions, and it's okay to express those differing opinions. But we need to be careful that those differences don't rip us apart. We need to be sure that we hold on to the idea that we are all created by God. Therefore, we're all children of God. And so we are called to live together, to love one another as He loved us. And that's a sacrificial love. He didn't come because we were perfect and we did things the way that He was hoping and wanting and calling us to. But He came because He loved us. And despite our sin, He was doing everything He could to save us and deliver us. So look, I thank you for being with me this week and watching this video. I hope it's been helpful. I encourage you to hit like if you've liked it and have learned something. I also encourage you to share it so that your friends and others will have the opportunity to see it and to learn from it as well. If you haven't already done so, I hope you'll take the opportunity to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And when you do, click the little icon, I think it's of a bell, and then anytime I post a new video, you will get notified. Well, look, I thank you for being with me this week. I hope that you'll join me next week for the next installment of Impacts.